Yeah, given this. They came for the ASMR. Oh, sorry. We're live. Oh my god. Hey guys, Scrolling here, and we're back at it again with another Melty Blood Type Lumina video. Melty Blood is a game about legacy. A fighting game series has been around for 20 years now, believe it or not. However, do you guys really talk about the legacy of Melty Blood? To this day, not that many versions are known of the game. Some of this has been lost media, some of it has been lost to time. We don't really know in the year 2023 a lot about the game's development, the old tier list, the old strategies, what people used to do to really get the most out of their Melty Blood. And I've come here to start off. So a new series on the channel. This is the character evolution. Now, two things before we start. First of all, this series is heavily inspired by the works of Ketchup and Mustard. They're my favorite FGC content creators. Their work to keep the legacy of their game alive has really resonated to me, and consider this a tribute from one content creator to another. Second, like I said, a lot of the information that we have is currently not fully clear. A lot of versions, especially older revisions of React, are pretty much lost media. I am thankfully able to get some versions going, and we'll point out any changes if I see them fit. So let's start off with the main man, Tohno Shiki. Here's the story. So we start our journey with the game that started it all, Melty Blood 1. Now I think this is one of the first times Melty 1 is being discussed in YouTube, actually, at least in English, so very excited to start. This is a very interesting game and it's very outdated, so let's take our time. Now this video is not gonna be a breakdown of all of Melty 1's mechanics, but for the sake of information, you need to know the following. First, there is a stun meter, which of course gets lower the more you get hit, and actually by using dashes in the air. Once you get stunned, you lose the ability to tech. You cannot tech in the air at all. So sometimes it looks like the opponent dropped a combo, but it's actually a real combo, and the reason is because the opponent got stunned. So this is a very important thing in Melty Blood 1, and is basically the thing that Tohno uses to be even playable, because I'll say it outright, he is not very good in this game. So let's go over our basics for Tohno in Melty Blood 1. A lot of these things will carry over to pretty much every other game, so let's start going through it. First of all, let's go over his buttons. We have our 5A, so a little kick. Our 2A, which is a mid attack, but he has longer reach than 5A. Our 5B, who has a launcher on 5BB. We have our 2B, which does an auto follow-up and is very slow, as you can see here. Unique to this game, 3B. This is a normal 3B. You cannot cancel to anything. It's very slow too. And it barely does any damage. So I don't know what's the point of this. But if you play Type Lumina, if you play the later games, you know that this move becomes special. The C buttons, we have 5C, which does a ton of damage, but cannot charge it. And 2C, which is our sweep. And sweeps in this game are very weird in properties because it alters the gravity of the opponent. We can go over that more in depth for that. So those are the buttons we're working with, and they carry over in the air. Pretty much the same buttons, A, B, and C. So the important thing here is gonna be the special moves. Tohno's special moves change over the years, but on the first appearance, he has these moves. We have the cheese slicer on the 236. Notice how the pushback on this move is crazy. You don't really get most of the hits actually, so not the best move. Even on damage, for the sake of this game, this is very low damage. We'll go over that in just a bit. And the EX move does a lot of hits, but again, no damage. So very useless special move, unfortunately. He does have an access to his iconic DP, and as you see, not the best damage, but it is a reversal, so it's good to have. The EX version does a little bit more. And on the Tomb Force, we have the stance move. So you may recognize these moves from Nanaya, and we'll see them later. So we have an overhead on 2 and for A. We have a run up low on 2 1 for B. And we have our command graph on 2 and for C. So this is the original moveset that Tohno Shiki was granted. And just a side note, not important to our video, but I just want to say it. Nanaya Shiki is exactly the same character as Tohno Shiki in this game. They have the same exact moves, specials, normals, same thing. They're only different because this game has a story mode, and there are parts in the story where you fight Nanaya, so they needed the character for that purpose. Tohno's movement in this game, unfortunately, is very bad. However, this is a thing that a lot of characters in Melty Blood 1 have in the ground, where look at his movement speed, especially his backwalk is really bad. His dash covers a lot of ground but has a lot of recovery. His backdash, however, is really good. He has access to a double backdash, a feature he carries on through the years. His air movement, however, pretty standard for this game. The drift, pretty good. So most of the battles you will be fighting in the air in this game. Now, I did comment how Tohno's 2C has the OTG property. Obviously, he gets a knockdown. However, that's the only way you can actually combo your launcher in this game. Tohno cannot combo 5BB unless you use 2C. And yep, as you can see, you can do that. Pretty restricted for this game, where characters like Sion get infinites of any hit. So Tohno not very strong, however, he can get pretty good loops if you can use his buttons correctly. And you can keep looping this until the stun meter recharges. At that point, their combo basically kind of drops in most cases. In case you use an OTG move. The rules of OTG of how this works is pretty complicated. I don't really want to go into the depths for Melty Blood 1, but just safe to say, Tohno can get pretty good damage of his combos, however, they're not really good. So on final note, as on his air throw is pretty interesting. It actually wall bounces, but you cannot get anything after it. And it's pretty hard to combo. As you can see, pretty restrictive. Throws in this game are proximity based. And you are locked out of your 5BB, of your air dash after JB. So, I don't know what they were thinking. As you see, it's really hard to do it of a normal hit. You'd have to just get a confirm here. Now, I don't really want to, again, go in very depth in this. This is just the stepping stones. But yeah, this is Tohno in Melty Blood 1. And as you can see, the core game plan that we can see in later games is here. However, very slow, very hard to actually use in a real match. So yeah, that's where our stepping stone is. So things really change once we hit React. That's where we're gonna go next. Talking about React is very interesting. This is the game that got the most changes. And the fact that it was on PC means that we can actually watch some of them. Now in this case, I'm just going to highlight 2, maybe 3 versions. First, we have to pay homage to 2.0, the original React. And we're going to see what changed for Tohno in this game. Now in React, we have an immediate change on Tohno. First of all, we get rid of the cheese slicer move. That move was pretty bad, so we got this slash attack. So you may recognize this if you play Actors again. Yeah, pretty solid. Actually, the EX version does have a wall bounce effect to it. Second of all, our movement speed gets much better. Less recovery overall. And we get combos. As we see, the air throw was reworked. It is not a wall bounce anymore. It is a soft knockdown. So pretty weak, and you're actually very minus on hit after air throw, which is pretty unfortunate. One more change, we don't have the stance move anymore. So a small side note, I really threw the ball on this one. This is Scrub from the future, and I want to say what I said about the stance moves is right and wrong. So in 2.0 React, Tohno did not have his stance moves. However, sometime between 2.4 and 2.09a, they gave him the command dash down. Look at this. Not only that, he has an EX dash that's a command grab. So the command grab came from this game, if you're used to it. Not only that, he has some really interesting things that are gonna be really hard for me to show, but his shield counters, he can do the cheese slicer, which I showed earlier, through one of the clips that I showed at the start, and he has a dash cancel after shielding a move. I don't know if this is a glitch, but he does have this. And I don't know how I feel. I don't know if it's a glitch. It looks like a glitch. Like, why does this work? It is funny. Yeah, I don't... So, yeah, Tohno does have some other cool things. And I just got command grab. But I just wanted to say that. Just really, really cool that they actually added extra moves between the patches. So, good stuff. And I'm glad I found this before I finished the video. So I'll be more careful revisiting every version of React because I could be missing stuff like this in upcoming videos. So nice catch, me. Our 3B was being repurposed, and now this is the 2-4. However, there is no follow-up on this. And the EX move is, as always has had a wall bounce effect to it. So we can see the DNA of what future Tohno has been. This is the release, and I want to say they got the formula. At this point, he already has his unblockable, and he has an overhead on 5BB. So yeah, pretty reminiscent of the Tohno we all know and love from later games. So I want to say, they can actually carry the formula across. So if you know very small changes happened at this point in time, I can tell you alright, the change to the earth throw where it became an actual knockdown happened around patch 2.09a, and other changes like a little wall bounce on 236C also changed to the point where this move now gave a knockdown instead of being a wall bounce. I think this happened at the end of React around Final Tuned, but we'll go over that in just a second. So I'm happy to report that with Tohno, we can carry our structure through most of the upcoming games. And yeah, this is, they set the gameplay that gave it to him. And almost 20 years later, I want to say it's not all that different. He has pretty much the same special moves. While Tohno did get better in this version and the subsequent versions, he never really got past the mid-tier. In the old forums and board posts that I was able to dig, people always thought he was very mid-tier. Didn't see many reasons why, but knowing a little bit about the React era, especially 2.09a, which is a very popular version, it has busted characters. Sion in that version is ridiculous. Aki is really good. And yeah, I don't think Tohno can really compete when, you know, Satsuki is doing an infinite and you're trying to play honest footsies, so totally understandable. Tohno did get a lot better, his movement was much better, his damage was there. He was actually able to combo off his unblockable, which is really crazy. He could get up to 5k from a basic combo. So he was definitely not on a bad spot. It's just that the other characters in this game are ridiculous, and I hope we get to cover them someday. I love talking about React. It is definitely my favorite period of Melty Blood, even if I didn't live through it. But yeah, it's always really fun to research it. We arrived at Melty Blood at Cadenza. And when we talk about Cadenza, there are two versions that we have to discuss. Version A, which is the original version that dropped in arcades, and version B, which was a revision for PC only. When we get to different versions, it will be important, and I will talk about it mostly through React Final Tuned. So just a quick story dump for those who don't know. Melty React has a version called Final Tune, which are actually two different versions. There's version A and version B of that. But Final Tune brought some of the balance and gameplay changes from Acadenza into React, because Acadenza was an arcade-only game. It wasn't a PC release at first. So the PC players wanted to play similar to what they used in Acadenza. So French Bread decided to do it. So it's a weird case where React Final Tune version A is pretty much the exact same game to Acadenza version A, outside of the newcomers, which are Koma and Len, and White Len, and Aoko. Aoko was a boss character, but she's playable in this game. So whenever I need to record footage for Acadenza version A related stuff, I will be using Final Tuned. React is just easier to record for me, because again, there's no PC version of it, so I would have to emulate it, and I think it would be much easier and easier for me to do it through React. But in this case, thankfully for me, Tohno is basically the exact same character between versions, so I don't have to worry that much about it. Thank you, Tohno. Why are you so simple? In terms of anything new that we haven't seen from React, well, we don't really have anything, just a small thing that it is in React 2.0, but I forgot to bring it up. Tohno can charge his JC, and this has been around since always. Since, like I said, it's been since React 2.0. I totally skipped it, my bad on that one. Yeah, this has always given these type of bounds, which it's pretty notorious when we get to type Lumina, but Tohno has always had it. Yes sir, always had it. And yes, believe it or not, he still does not have his stance moves in this. He's still just pretty much footsies. But when it comes to that, he's still pretty solid, as we'll talk a little bit more about it. In Acadenza version A and B, like we said earlier, Tohno didn't change much. However, there was a lot of representation for this character. I think the appeal of Tohno back in the day was that he's just a very consistent character. He can get pretty far with fundamentals only, thanks to his very good anti-air 2C. That's something that we haven't really highlighted. The ability to anti-air with sweeps has been around since classic Melty Blood, and Tohno has one of the better ones. And yeah, he's always been able to do it. However, like we said earlier, in tier list for this game, he really didn't move much. He's still in this mid-tier spot. His pressure is pretty standard, nothing too crazy about it. His mix-up, non-existent. He is the most honest boy, for sure. His damage can be really good with meter, thanks to the ability to wall bounce with 2-on-4C. However, nothing to really be crazy about. Characters like Sion, again, just to say the better protagonist, did a lot of damage of 1 bar when Tohno couldn't even get Okizeme correctly for 1 bar. So characters like Sion and Arcwait just kinda did what he wanted to do, but a little bit better thanks to their faster movement speed. Tohno's definitely more on those small, slow, steady, fundamental gameplay. So not that he's bad, but he wasn't really good. And with that, we enter Actress again. And if you were tired of me repeating myself with, wow, Tohno was just this mid-tier character, wow, nothing really changed between games. Now is the time, man. This is the one time Tohno Shiki was a criminal. However, when we talk about Actress again, we have to talk about all the different versions that we've seen for Actress again. So there's Actress Again, version A will drop in arcades. Very notorious, by the way, not a great version in my opinion. Then we got our PS2 version, which is pretty popular because it got pretty big in the States at some point, beginning on the 2010s. So there's a lot of information about it. And this is the version that got featured at Evolution 2010. After that, we have our current code, and finalizing at current code 1.07, which is the version that everyone knows for Actress Again. Now, Tohno was a war criminal, however, only one version. Yes, now we start talking about the moon system. So I'm gonna use Actress Again current code, since it's the PC version, is the most current one, just to record the footage. but we'll be talking about the history of Tohno as we go along, okay? Hope that makes sense. Now, Actors Again is a huge game. I really can't do it justice in just a couple of minutes. I really hope to dig down into the game someday, but very popular game. So, we're not really gonna cover all the mechanics that make Tohno super relevant in Actors Again. Because in this case, as per usual, Tohno plays the system really well, just pretty basic. So we're gonna break down the moon system like I said, and like we have our C Tohno, our F Tohno, and the H Tohno. And the H Tohno is gonna be really special. But let's start with C. So C Tohno is pretty much the old Tohno that we've seen from Akadensa, React, etc. However, he has gotten a couple tools, and it's pretty interesting. So first of all, we got a new command normal, 6B. Moves him forward. Okay, hitbox. You don't really use it like that. Has an overhead. So if you're keeping track at home, Tohno has 1, 2, 3, and is not done. He has stances. These are now on the 2-2 series. He has 2-2A, which is the kick, 2-2B dash, 2-2C command grab, and 2-2D feint. And the good thing about 2-2A, another overhead. So Tohno, a ton of overheads, you always have to keep looking for those. Another good thing about the command dash, you can shorten it by pressing D in between. So pretty good tools. You don't really use the dash like that on like Nanaya, whose command dash used pretty much all the time. So they really got a very good distinction between the characters. But yes, one more thing, in the air, we now have DP in the air. Believe it or not, he did not have these in React or Akadensa. And we have a new special move in the air, 2-2, which are dive attacks. So Tohno did get a lot of fun tools to work around in this game. So very, very nice touch. Now, I really can't make justice of all the nasty things C Tohno can do, but let's just say he's one of the most technical characters in this game when it comes to confirms and combos. He can do a lot of damage. And the difference between a Tohno that only has the basics down, that comes from Akadensa, and a C Tohno player is huge. In this case, for example, this combo only works because of the gravity. If you see, we can actually combo into the 6B. This is character specific and hit count specific. You need to hit the 4 jabs because of the gravity system built into Actors Again. So very, very minor things to work around like that. He has all these very cool hit count combos and very hard links to hit. A lot of work with C Tohno, but I think he's really rewarding. Once you get good with him, it's so much fun. Moving on to Full Moon, and excluding the moon specific mechanics, we have a lot to work with now. New normals all around. So the A normals work differently. 5B, huge poke. Compared to the elbow, this is huge. 2B, actually a very good anti-air, moves him forward also. 5C, look at this kick. 2C is the only normal who remains the same, but gets a glow up in the form of 2C charge. One of the only moves in this game that is jump cancelable on block. Very few normals have this property. So yeah, very fun stuff. Very fun stuff. In air normals, JA, pretty standard. JB, amazing button. Such a good normal. And as I hinted here, we can actually do fuzzies with JB and IH. Pretty hard to do, let me see. It's pretty hard, it's pretty tricky. There we go. So you're gonna actually confirm after IH. You can do very nasty stuff with this. JC. Huge normal. In terms of special moves, look who's back. The nasty cheese slicer. And the reason I'm wearing this color, because I bet you have heard the legend of Banana Shiki. Just kidding. So yeah, we have the cheese slicer back. Much better than its original Melty Blood 1 counterpart. Instead of the DP, we have a launcher, 2 launchers, pretty much combo tools, and a good reversal here, also a combo tool. We do have the 2-2 series, and we have the slide. So we have a good mix of old school Tohno and a new approach, pretty much very standard full moon, high damage. Basic stuff, like super basic execution, almost 5k damage type of territory, very easy. Such a beginner-friendly character and very strong. I totally recommend it if you want like a fundamentals character that just plays very strong offense. It has fundamentals. Tohno F in Full Moon is definitely a character for you. And then we hit the infamous H Tohno. And if you're someone that comes from the PS2 era, you definitely hate this character. You remember him very well. And we'll talk about it a little bit of why this character was so overwhelming. Thankfully now we have good records of, you know, things that we can talk about competitively for this game, which is not always going to be the case because let's say React wasn't being really played like that, or at least there's no records that I could find. And I searched a lot, let's just say. I've asked around, done all these kinds of things, and yeah. But anyway, H Tohno, pretty core Tohno things to note. 2B does not have the follow-up, but he's much faster. Feels like mega fast. We have the 6AA series that every H-Moon has. And we have the tackle, the shoulder tackle. Touchdown Tohno as they call it. In the air, we don't have the air moves, but we have new normals and the same JC. Special moves pretty much the same as C Tohno. So yeah, it's the base Tohno core with an amazing air dash. This air dash is the equalizer. So pretty good. We don't have the double backdash that Tohno iconically has always had, but I don't think it's needed. It's his normal backdash is still really good. So Tohno's movement in this case is really good. Some Tohno players to this day still sometimes pick H where they need extra movement, and C Tohno doesn't cover it. So pretty interesting. Like I said, this character used to be a war criminal, as they say, but he got hit pretty heavily going into current code. Very specifically talking, his 6E used to be really good. Used to be easier to cancel into this series. Not anymore, unfortunately. And the universal half moon nerf, where pretty much all the half moon characters got damage reduces across the board in a very weird change. You know, there was a change that affected all H moons and made a lot of them pretty underwhelming. But half moon was a big problem in the early versions, so they wanted to kind of balance it out. Not sure if they did it, but that's another topic for another day. So we can go more in depth now about H Tohno, which is the one I really want to emphasize because this character was a threat in PS2. So this character was considered top 3, sometimes even top 1, so challenging HV Sion, H Ryogi type of territories. And those characters were really busted. So what was Tohno good at? You know, he doesn't seem to have any weird mix-ups. In fact, his mix-ups has always been super honest, super fair by Melty Blood standards. You know, pretty overwhelming, stagger pressure, and just strike throw. Well, the reason was his damage output was out of this world crazy. Alongside his movement and his punish potential, this meant that you were eating half life for a mistake. Tohno could capitalize really quickly and just erase life bars. Like I was saying earlier, half moons were really good back in the first versions of the game. They did a lot of damage. And across the board, half moons tend to be the top tiers, with crescent moons pretty much surrounding the high tier territory, and full moons, a lot of them were good, but most of them were pretty underwhelming, and it took them until Actress Again current code to get really good. F Tohno is a case where the character is actually really solid, right? But why would you pick that character when you have Half Moon Tohno? So, like we were saying, the Actress Again Originals was a very different game from current code, where the point wasn't so much set play so much as having good neutral and having a good punish game. The strong Ogizeme, focus on 50-50s and zoners didn't really show up until current code. That's where the value of characters like Vision and Tohno dropped, and that's why in the newest tier list you will see Tohno at most at a lower high tier rank. He is totally capable, he's a very strong character, but he can't really keep up with the Okizeme Vortex and sometimes very broken zoning that the top tiers in this game have. So very unfortunate, where the one game Tohno was considered top tier, he only had that for about a year. So he had a moment of glory and then it went all down. Of course, I also have to make special shout out to the Sea Tohno god Narusora. This guy is out of this world ridiculous. Even to this day, he's still active sometimes. And he'll just show you why Sea Tohno is actually so good. If you have the execution for it, this guy is doing 6k combos like it's nobody's business. And then you go to training mode, you try it, and you realize, dude, this guy is landing one frame links like it's nothing. A lot of practice goes into it. But I had to shout it out. Someone that definitely put competitive Sea Tohno on the map, and definitely a fan favorite whenever he shows up. And with that, we get into Type Lumina. Yeah, it was you may say it was a quick trip, but thankfully Tohno didn't change that much across most versions. So as a first episode, you can say I'm glad. Now, Type Lumina changed a lot about the Tohno kit, I will say for the better. Like I haven't talked much about special moves like the slides, just because they're not that great. The 226A is whatever, the slide was whatever. You know, a lot of the special moves that Tohno had were not good. Type Lumina modernized them into threats. So going into the kit, 5A, 5B, 5C, 2A, 2B, and 2C. Does this seem familiar? It is the exact same normal scheme that he's always had, which is so cool. It's so cool. It is ridiculous, and yeah, we still have the unblockable, but we don't have the 5BB overhead. In fact, we don't even have a launcher here, right, because of the auto combo system. We have transformed the follow-up of 5E, and you can see in the animation, it looks really clean, to the 3C launcher, the universal launcher in the game. Now, special moves. The 236A has had a little change. It's still the same idea, but it's much better, which you can even combo now. On normal hit and counter hit, which is easier on counter hit, we have our DPs, and the slides, probably the most improved special move from the base original legacy, maybe in the entire game. So these ones are insane combo tools now, adding very big damage. We have our stances, but they're locked into what the game calls boundary peak, which is after you do your arc drive, you unlocked the 2-2 moves. You remember, the original Tohno from Melty one had the overhead, the low, and the cheese slicer. So we've come full circle, actually. It is really neat. As someone who keeps up with the, wants to keep up with all the references and the lore, really sick. I'm really happy they did that. Of course, we have access to new moves, thanks to the moon system, which are our moon skills, but they're just improved versions of our original roster. So on improved 236, this move, which reminds me a lot of the old 214C because of the wall bounce effect. If you see, in this game the 214C is a launcher, so it is a little reworked. But they kept the original idea on the moon skill one. And we have fast overhead and a DP moon skill. So pretty standard for what moon skills are worth. But yeah, that's the toolkit that we're working with. A very good transition from the original. We basically kept all the key features, but all these moves are usable. This game gave Tohno some passive abilities, which make them really even more unique. So these are, whenever he uses a knife button, it does chip damage to the opponent. Not a lot, but you can see it adding up. In a game where chip matters a lot, where you actually can take a lot of chip damage from blocking attacks, like this just adds up and makes it so that his pressure is, yeah, pretty standard, pretty not super threatening compared to others, but there's the constant life being drained, right? That's the main idea. And the other one is a moon drive trait, which almost nobody has in this game. This makes his unblockable attacks, aka his 5C, and his charge arc drive faster to charge. You almost know we're gonna see the arc drive. It's like pretty meme. You can always shield it, of course, but the unblockable one, it's really good. Makes it really fast. So just a heads up, he has a lot of good things to work with in this game. Another quick side note, something very nice for Tohno. His 2A has always been a mid attack, it's never been a low. In this game, it is a low. And his 5A is also a low. So ridiculous that such a long button that doesn't look like a low is actually a low. Thank you, Kamone. He definitely needs it. This game also gave the 2B a big glow up. That move is arguably one of the worst buttons Tohno had. In fact, in most of his combos you omitted. You did 2A, 2C because the pushback of 2B made it so you couldn't do the air combo correctly. The 2B in this game is amazing, is one of his best starters, and he's an actual anti-air. So, good stuff. As you can see here, you can get big damage. Very solid. With these, let's just start talking about Tohno as a character competitively in Type Lumina. We see the kit was completely improved upon. A lot of the useless moves were reworked in an amazing way, and I cannot commend the team enough in how they managed to reimagine Tohno Shiki into a threat. This game works really differently from the original Melty Blood games, where offense was king and you just needed to rush down, constantly do insane rebeats. In this game, it's a little bit more methodical, in which you want to call out the opponent's defensive option, and strike throw is really important. And it just so happens that Tohno plays it really well. In fact, on release date, a lot of top players actually thought he was the best character in the game. He has just such a solid kit that worked for what the game wanted you to do, that yeah, a lot of people thought he was the best. Nowadays, with the different patches and characters and tech being discovered, he's definitely seen on the upper mid slash high tier territory, which in this game is very different from, let's say, your actors again. In this game, the tiers are very close to each other. So if you're a mid tier, you're more than capable to beat everyone in the game. I would say he is around the high tiers. He's super solid, has all the tools to succeed. He's just a little outclassed when it comes to offense regarding other characters. But he is more than capable, and of course I couldn't talk about Tohno in Type Lumina without mentioning the GOAT Phantom, which I do have a Tohno guide for Type Lumina in the same channel featuring Phantom, and he helped me with the script, helped me with everything. It's great, and this is a character that's very loved in Japan. There's a lot of good players. I want to shout out Rondo, I want to shout out my boy Uncle Aki and Uru, which came to Evolution 2022 and showed us what Tohno Shiki can do, and it was amazing to have them. This character is very strong, and the evolution of him has been insane throughout the years. And with this quick summary of the wonderful boy, we come to a close of the first episode of this new series. I hope everyone had a great time. And yeah, I'm just messing with it. Glad to have Tohno as the first character here, because it was someone that thankfully I didn't have to get that invested into the research, so I could work on the details on the series, what I wanted it to be. I think it just worked very perfectly for me, and I'll try to improve upon this formula as we hit more of the old school characters that have a little bit more legacy and more things to talk about. Trust me, there is a lot that I want to talk about. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this, give me a good like. I would really appreciate it. A subscription as well. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you guys.